We are going to tell you all about the Alpha Strike. It's how you can hit your opponent so hard at the beginning of your turn, they can't play anymore.
Now, while that sounds really, really sad because you've hit your opponent so hard that they can't play anymore, the reality is the Alpha Strike is something that every army in the game is designed to do. It's a hit so hard at the first turn of the game that you cripple a lot of your opponent's defenses. Now, a good army is also going to have durability, which we're going to talk about in the next video, that actually negates the Alpha Strike. And in fact, at pro tournament level, you'll often see that you can't Alpha Strike your opponent if you want to. Now, you've had this experience when you play even her Necrons.
Yes, I
where
have.
You get the first turn of the game, but there's no Necrons to shoot because she knows how to use durability to survive against an Alpha Strike. But also, Eve knows how to hit so hard with her Alpha Strike that most opponents just don't recover unless you know exactly what you're doing. So let's talk about exactly what the Alpha Strike is. The Alpha Strike is knowing how much damage you can put into your opponent at the start of the game and building an army that is optimized to do that.
Yeah.
I make sure that any army I design, about 40% of it is dedicated to the Alpha Strike, sometimes more.
Yeah.
But a key element is I want to make sure that I can hit my opponent with 40% of my stuff. It's going to hit so hard they can't recover. Just talk about a couple of Alpha Strikes to give an example of what it is. One of my favorites that you have yet to face is a Devastator squad for any Spaceman chapter in a drop pod with heavy grav cannons. Now, heavy grav cannons are a 4-shot gun. It's a heavy 4 weapon that's strength 5 at 36 inches. So when you come out of the drop pod, you've got 4 guys with heavy grav cannons, that's 16 shots. You can add an Armorium Cherub, which allows 1 extra guy to fire again. So essentially this gives you 20 shots when you first get out of that transport. So the cool thing is you've now got 20 shots when you first come out of that drop pod, and you're at strength 5. These weapons also are AP -3, so you're going to reduce your opponent's armor save by -3. But because of tactical doctrines, the heavy weapons on the first turn of the game get an extra -1. So we're talking about -4 now. That's
oh my god.
Very significant because most Space Marines have a 3-up saving throw.
Yeah.
That means that saving throw is completely gone.
Yeah.
Because you're going to give them -4, so they don't get to save against it. But even better, the way the grav cannon works, the heavier your armor is, the more damage it does. So if you have a saving throw of 3 or higher, like a Space Marine, it does D3 damage instead of just 1.
No.
So I've got 20 shots at strength 5, AP -4, reducing armor by 4, and I'm doing D3 damage against anything that I would want to hit with that weapon. So the only weakness here, it's not the amount of shots, it's the strength of 5.
Yeah.
Which is great against infantry, but maybe I don't want to Alpha Strike your infantry. Maybe, I don't know, I want to Alpha Strike a vehicle. So this is where this gets very interesting indeed, because for a single command point, you can activate a stratagem that enables you to re-roll failed wounds and any damage dice you want with grav cannons.
Oh.
So I've got 20 shots that are going to, hit on 4s because I'm going to have to move, but I can put some kind of character to me re-roll failed hits. So now I go from, hitting on 4s and re-rolling all fails. And then I'm going to wound on 5s, but re-roll all failed wounds, which is going to give me a lot of extra hits. And then they don't get a saving throw. Even vehicles have a save of 3 up, which is now no save. And D3 damage each, and I can re-roll any of the dice I want. So if I roll 1 damage, I can re-roll it and try and get a 2 or higher. This obliterates people. There is a ton of firepower from this. And the best part about it is, because they're in a drop pod, my opponent can't deny me this. Because if you go first, they're not on the board. They turn up on my first turn, right? So that's an Alpha Strike.
Yeah, I'm like rethinking my entire list now. I can't wait for part 2 of this video already.
It's huge. But now let's look at different armies. So we could say, for example, destroyers. The old destroyers, not the Scorpet close combat ones, but the shooting destroyers, have their own version of that exact strategy. These destroyers are 3 shots each at strength 6, AP -3, doing D3 damage. So it's a similar kind of weapon profile. They can also add 1 heavy destroyer into the squad of destroyers, which gives them a strength 9 shot that does D6 damage. But the point is, this is a 36-inch range weapon. This is going to shoot you no matter where you are on the board.
That's why Eve gets on.
That's why she has it. Plus, they've got a 10-inch movement, which effectively makes the shooting range 46 inches. Now, there's no way you can hide on the board, but this is going to get even more interesting with the Alpha Strike. I'll explain in a minute. A key element about the destroyers is, despite the fact that they're little flying units, they have the infantry keyword. Now, it's not often that you're going to have flying units that have the infantry keyword, but these guys do, and that becomes very important with that Alpha Strike, because the Necrons have an artifact called the Veil of Darkness, and it enables you to teleport once per game, providing your infantry. So what Eve will often do is hide her unit of Necron destroyers where you cannot shoot them, and in a similar method to my drop pod tactic, she will then teleport them anywhere on the board 9 inches away from you, where they're well within their range. And she typically plays Mefrit, which gives them an extra AP -1 in short range. So it's going to be a ton of, again, negating of your armor save. If you've got a 3-up save, you can kiss goodbye to it. And for 1 command point, she can activate the Exterminator protocol, which enables her to reroll failed hits and wounds. So once again, significantly increasing the chance of that unit decimating whatever it is that you're shooting at.
Yeah.
Now, every army in the game has some version of this.
Cool.
Whether you're playing the White Scars and you've got Outriders and you're going to move, advance, and charge into close combat, essentially on the first turn of the game. Whether you're going to warp time Magnus, the Primarch for the Thousand Suns, so he does double movement across the board and gets in close combat in the first turn of the game while also casting psychic powers in your opponent's deployment zone. Whether you've got a ton of heavy weaponry, whatever it is, you need to think, do I have an Alpha Strike and how hard is it going to hit? And when you do it, you really want to be calculating the mathematical odds of killing something that will be devastating to you. So I always start thinking about a Land Raider. A Land Raider's got a lot of wounds, it's toughness 8, it's got a big saving throw, doesn't have an invulnerable save, but at the start of the game, if I kill someone's Land Raider, whatever was inside doesn't get to travel across the battlefield, I've reduced a lot of their firepower. And so I always think about my Alpha Strikes being how many Land Raiders can I kill, right? Or how many Repulsors, which is a similar kind of vehicle.
Yeah.
And if I know that on the first turn of the game, I'm like, okay, statistically, I'm probably going to kill 1 or 2 Land Raiders, I'm like, okay, I've got a good enough Alpha Strike. A couple of Land Raiders is about the same as a Titan, so if I know that I could kill 2 Land Raiders, providing I got the first turn, I'm like, I'm going to hit their army hard enough that it's going to be hard for them to recover from it.
Okay, so you mentioned each army has an Alpha Strike. What is a key factor that you want to look for when you're finding that Alpha Strike for that army?
Yeah, good question, actually. So every army does have at least one. First thing you're going to ask yourself, are you capable of getting into close combat on the first turn of the game? And if so, when you get into close combat, will you completely destroy your opponent in close combat on the first turn? If the answer is yes, then you have a close combat Alpha Strike. And the kind of thing that I'm thinking about here, for example, would be Magnus and Warp Time. Magnus, Warp Time, first turn of the game, he gets to move his full movement, which is a significant because of his wings, and then Warp Time lets him do it again. He's then well within range to charge. He's statistically going to charge anything. He charges, he's at strength 14 in close combat. He's going to destroy whatever he charges, providing you pick the right thing, right? If I charge Magnus into a group of Gretchen, or a large unit of cultists, not much is going to happen. He's just not going to do enough attacks. But if I charge him against the vehicle, it's probably going to destroy it. So there's a little bit of like picking and choosing, but you're really looking for something that can affect things on the first turn of the game, whether it's close combat or whether it's shooting. So maybe I've got something with long range weaponry that fires a lot. But you're typically going to have a lot of dice. It's going to have a very high strength. It's going to have a high armor penetration value. It's going to do lots of damage. Okay. That's really what we're looking at. Whether it's close combat, whether it's shooting, it doesn't really matter. It can also be mortal wounds. Forge World makes this amazing miniature called the Decimator. And unless they change the rules, which they're talking they might change them at some point, but it does long range mortal wounds. And so once again, that's another strong Alpha Strike. I have an Elder army, a Craft World army. And my Craft World army can unload mortal wounds on the first turn of the game. Between psychic powers and a vehicle that it uses sort of like pop out mortal wounds. It's just a lot of mortal wounds on the first turn. And once again, most people can't handle that much mortal wound damage coming at them. So it's really just looking through the book and just thinking, okay, what works on turn 1 and how much damage is it statistically going to do, and what else can I do for it? For example, with yours, we've got the Havocs with Endless Cacophony. That's a lot of damage, and you're going to do it on the first turn of the game. So your Alpha Strike there is very strong, and that's essentially what you want to do for Alpha Strike. And if you put about 40% of your army aside specifically to do the Alpha Strike, and you know that on the first turn of the game this is going to happen, then you're great. Now I've seen a lot of failed Alpha Strikes as well. These are things that typically will come in via teleportation. The problem with teleportation is you can't arrive on the first turn of the game. So I'll have people who will make a really badass Terminator unit, but it can't arrive until turn 2. You can't Alpha Strike on turn 2. That doesn't mean that there isn't a use for Terminators teleporting in on turn 2, but I would never count it as part of my Alpha Strike. No matter how tough they are and how hard they are, they're not going to protect me in that first turn of the game. In fact, I would actually consider the Terminators as part of my durability strategy, which is something we're going to be talking about in the very next video, where we talk about how to protect ourselves from our opponent's Alpha Strike, and then hit them back so hard we give them a bloody nose. Now, if you like the kind of content that we create, you like the videos, you enjoy our battle reports, and you want to learn how to paint faster, maybe hear some of these strategies but applied to each individual army, and of course all the sub-factions as well, then you may want to consider becoming a Knights at the Game Table member. Becoming a member is easy. There's a link somewhere outside this video that you can click on. You can learn all about it. And while it does cost a little bit of money, it's actually significantly cheaper than most people think. And better yet, it comes with a discount on miniatures because we partnered up with this great store. And the discount essentially pays for itself anyway. So
definitely,
we'd love to have you as a member. It helps support all the content that we create. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. And I look forward to seeing you in the very next video, which again, you can find somewhere outside here. There'll be a link to it where you can learn all about durability.